Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I have read a book. So this is a book review. So this is the Empusium. Sorry, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. The Empusium, a health resort horror story by Olga Torkaczuk. So it's just been released 2024. It was translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones, sorry, because Olga Torkaczuk is Polish, so she presumably wrote the original in Polish. I really like Olga Torkaczuk. I'm obviously not the only one. She did win the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2018. That was a bit of a frustrating year probably for her, I would imagine. I don't know for sure, but she wasn't actually awarded the prize in 2018 because there was some scandal or issue with like one of the male judges and like harassment or something. So they delayed the prize giving until the following year. So she won it for 2018, she didn't actually get the prize until 2019, like the ceremony and everything. And then she would have had to share the kind of limelight with the 2019 winner, which, I don't know, that's a little bit frustrating. But it was well-deserved Nobel Prize for Literature, I think. I discovered her myself when I read Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead, which I conveniently have right behind me. As you can see, the covers are pretty similar, which I quite like, although there are other covers available, I think, but like, why not? Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead, I always miss up the title. It won the International Man Booker Prize in 2018, so 2018 was a pretty good year for her actually. In Drive Your Plough, several men are murdered in a remote Polish village in like the depth of winter, loads of snow and frost and everything. But it's also a dark feminist comedy. I think it really reflects on society's treatment of older women, how they're dismissed and ignored. Also focuses a lot on animal rights, and then also the poetry of William Blake. So there's like a lot going on in this book, and that's just the theme with Olga Torkaczuk. There's just like so much going on in her books. I loved this book. I can't remember now why I bought it, perhaps because I was appealed the cover and the title, probably, because I hadn't heard of her as a writer before I bought it, and I loved it, and it was an amazing, wonderful surprise, and I really recommend. So this new one, the Empusium, was bought on impulse. The title really meant nothing to me. I did look it up afterwards, and it refers to kind of a mythical shape-shifting demon. But it was the subtitle, a health resort horror story, that really appealed to me. And also, I just love Olga Torkaczuk as well. So the plot then, well, I don't want to give too much away because there's lots of twists and turns, and it's a great read. But the book is set in, well, it starts in September 1913 and then it finishes in November 1913, so it's actually a very autumnal book. So I accidentally did pick a very seasonal read. It's set in the Silesian Mountains, if I pronounced that correctly. I apologise if not. So I did have to look this up afterwards as well. Silesia was a province of Prussia between 1815 and 1919, but now most of that area would be in Poland, but some parts in the Czech Republic and also in Germany. So a young Pole, Mieczysław Wojnicz, arrives to stay at a guest house for gentlemen and receive treatment for tuberculosis, or TB. All the residents, including the proprietor of the guest house, are ill with TB. And Mieczysław is getting treatment at the nearby sanatorium like the other residents. The mountain air is thought to be conducive for recovery, which is why the sanatorium was built there. And at first we, and the narrator of the book, seem to be watching him in a slightly voyeuristic way. And that does continue throughout the book, but it's much more noticeable and prominent at the beginning. And it did kind of annoy me, like that style of writing, but only initially, and then I did understand it a lot more by the end, so it kind of did all make sense. Every evening after dinner, the residents of the guest house all get together and drink an hallucinogenic liqueur made from mushrooms, and they discuss politics and religion and a lot about the various ways in which women are inferior to men, which is delightful. Really unpleasant opinions. So I looked a few things up after reading the book. So TB, tuberculosis, I knew that it was a serious disease. I didn't quite realise how many people were killed by TB in that time period. So according to a Google search that I did, it was something like 306 out of every 100,000 people in Warsaw in Poland in 1913 died of TB, which is like a huge percentage of the population died of TB. So I did also do, like I said, I did a bit of Googling and Wikipediaing, but there was a German doctor called Hermann Bremer who created the first TB sanatorium in 1854 in Gobersdorf in the Silesian Mountains. Apologise for pronunciation again. And in 1882, a German scientist called Robert Koch proved that the disease was caused by an infectious agent. So they didn't really fully understand germs and stuff yet. And he named it Koch's bacillus. And so Koch's bacillus and Bremer and Koch are referenced in the book, and the book is set in Gobersdorf. Again, sorry I can't pronounce any of these words. According to the blurb on the back, Olga Torkaczuk is revisiting Thomas Mann territory about a century after the publication of his work, The Magic Mountain. Again, I'm very illiterate. I don't know who that is really. Well, he's a writer, obviously, but I did have to look it up. But apparently, it's a work that he wrote during a period when his wife was staying at a sanatorium in 1912 for respiratory illness. So you can kind of see the themes. So, I mean, Olga Torkaczuk is just someone that seems like she's incredibly intelligent, and she's obviously done her research. But the book isn't just about TB and people suffering from TB. So part of Mieczysław's treatment for TB includes rest cures, which is just periods basically where you're just lying down, not doing anything. So you're not allowed to do any other activity. Super boring basically, but it does give him time to reflect on his childhood, and there are passages where we kind of flash back to things that happened in his childhood. So his mother dying shortly after his birth, his very strict father, the many doctor visits that he had to endure as a child, and then throughout the book we start to understand more about what those doctor's visits were for. And then times when he was afraid or confused, and as the story progresses, he is trying to reconcile and accept who he is, whilst also trying to unravel the mysterious and possibly sinister events that are taking place in the book in front of him. The murders in Drive Your Plough in the other book were very clear and obvious. They were just bodies, you know, people were just finding dead bodies. Even if the murderer wasn't very clear right away. But in this work, we don't have that so much, but death kind of just hangs in the air. Many of the TB patients are likely to die of the disease, but also the suggestion of possible murder or violent death in rumours and in some kind of potential threats throughout the book that just add to this like sinister vibe throughout the book. I do want to say more about what happens in the plot, but I really don't want to give anything away, and I think the way to go into it is not knowing that much, although I did read the blurb on the back myself, and I think that does help to help me to understand what's kind of happening, I guess, in the book. Torkaczuk weaves in so much into her book. This is definitely another feminist work, quite clearly, not shying away from that. And there's a lot on here about gender and power. There's also a lot about identity and nationalism. I mean, it's set in Europe on the brink of World War One. There's themes of illness, but then also science and superstition. And there's a lot of discussions and the debates that the residents have, particularly when they're drinking this hallucinogenic liqueur, about, you know, politics and things like that. To be honest, did go a bit over my head, and I struggled to keep track a little bit of which character was saying what and what the difference was between what they were saying. There is a point in the book where Mieczysław stops drinking the hallucinogenic liquor because he kind of says that he's struggling to keep track of who said what, and people's opinions seem to be changing, and he just can't quite keep his head around it, and I kind of wondered if then it was intentional and I wasn't actually just stupid and actually he was supposed to be confused. But it also could just be me. Reading Olga Torkaczuk, I just get the impression more than anything else that she is just really, really smart, and I think she'd be really interesting to talk to. I really did like the book. I think my one critique would be that the dramatic denouement seemed to come quite quickly after a much slower burn. So there's a long period of build-up and then suddenly stuff just happens right at the end. And I felt like possibly then it was a little bit rushed. But I don't know, like, has anyone else read it? What did you think? I would have liked the ending, the kind of dramatic events towards the end to be like, take a bit longer, I guess. But I don't know, is that just me? Let me know what you think. That's where I'm going to leave it, because like I said, I don't want to give too much away. So let me know what you think in the comments, and do like and subscribe.